Well, today, don't know what the sound's like today. We may have changed one of the microphones. Right. We have here a brand new Intek M899. One of the viewers has said he fancies buying one. Didn't know what it was like. I said no, but we've got one on the shelf. So included some bits and pieces. Oh, goes on, this does. That's just a packing piece. That's interesting. Then in here you get the remote PTT button and a remote earpiece mic, but we're not here to play with those. Right, well it's I thought this came from the wholesale, but that says nice. How bizarre. Why would I buy one retail when I'm in the trade? I don't know. Perhaps we couldn't get one anyway. 2016. It's a few years ago, isn't it? Whatever it is. Oh, that is... Mind you, sometimes we can buy things cheaper retail than we can trade. So that might have happened. Anyway, I don't know. Not bothered. Doesn't matter. One of the good things about Knights is they do set the things up a bit. They don't just sell them out of the box. They do set them up. So not many dealers doing that. So that's alright sometimes saving £5 by buying one from an eBay box shifter, but at least if you're going to a shop like Knights, even if it's £5 more or whatever, you are getting a pre-sale service. You know, that's not the right box. Do I need to plug the soldering iron in? I do need to switch the soldering iron on. So we've got a surface mount product on a fiberglass printed circuit board, and if I can actually release the tie cord on here, I tried an Intek in one of the cars once. Was it the 450? Whichever one has the forward facing speaker, and the detector kept going out. I was constantly having to readjust it, so I gave up with it in the end. So I don't know whether it was ours or whether I ought to have filled it with wax or what, but it was a bit like Maxcom 6E's did. Right, we'll plug it into the test equipment. This is one of those thick curly leads, and it's a 4-pin plug. It's one of those mic leads that if the radio didn't weigh much and you'd put it on your table, you pick up the mic and drag the radio across with the with it. That has holes in the back saying S meter. It doesn't have an external S meter socket. You know what? We've not had an instruction book come out with this, have we? Serial number's 140. It doesn't have a PA speaker. That's a hole. It doesn't have an S meter. That's just a hole. So, as you can see, there's only a socket for the extension speaker. And I'll plug in our test equipment to that. Now at least it has a few adjustments. Right, we'll switch on the power supply. I heard a relay operate then. I thought I heard a relay operate. Yes, there's a relay down there. Yeah, it's transmit receive. Do you know, back in 1981, we poo-pooed relays even back then. And now it's 2020, they're still putting relays in. Having said that, they haven't been that troublesome, have they? I've changed a few on those Alba CBM1 and that's the Harvard 400M, and there's another one which uses the same chassis, but they were difficult to get, and they ended up importing from the United States, and they were at great expense. You know, they work out like £19 each. But in the past, we were kind of hardwiring a general purpose relay in, and it was time consuming, and I don't like to introduce any extra length on any leads, or you can end up losing a bit of efficiency. Right, we'll switch picture-in-picture on. Hopefully we've now got a picture of the power meter. So let's see what it's booted up on. 17U. So to set the band on this, it switches it on holding the emergency button, and then we can wiggle it around until we get to the country we want. Then we can press the emergency button again. Okay, yes, that's it. Now what happens when we press the band button? Nothing. Okay, so what happens is it wraps round. So it does the 40 CPT channels wrapping round to the UK channels. And it doesn't allow us to access AM. You'd have to reprogram that. So we're going to optimise this for channel 20 UK. I've got no interest whatsoever in CPT channels. Lucky to get a mile range on those here. So there we go. So the transmit lineup is going to be what? I think all we've got there is that. We've got those two, haven't we? By the looks of that. And the rest of this is going to be receive. We're going to be able to set the frequency, because I know that I looked at the circuit diagram, which is in the back of the instruction manual that I looked at online. And we've got a trimmer capacitor for that. So that's the 10.24. So let's see what power it's doing. Doing 3.5. That's fine. And let's see where he's got the deviation. Wallow. Wow, that's too loud. Okay. No, we don't want it up there. And we'll just see what frequency we're doing. So I'll just move the camera across. So we're looking for 2779125. It's slightly high. That's well within spec. Always the wrong way. There we go, that'll do nicely. So just pop the camera back onto the meter. So I want to make sure we've peaked that. That looks like it's part of the transmit. And that looks like it's part of the transmit. And then we've got an automatic power control preset. I'll just get my notes, because I don't want to upset anything I don't need to. I was looking at the circuit diagram earlier, and we've got, it looks to me like RV4 is power. So I'll write in what I think I know. What I think I know. Notice I said that. I think RV, well, we'll see if we can find anything. RV301 I think is deviation. For FM. RV5. Can we find that? Find RV1, which is there, and I think that is S meter. So RV4 and RV5 is what we're looking for. That'll be easier to look in the set. So RV5 is down there. So I think that's power. RV. See, some of these are part of the VOX, and so we don't want to upset those. And of course, one of these is going to be AM modulation for when it's set to one of the European countries, which that's programmed to do. And I don't want to upset that because it's of no consequence or interest to me here. So we're looking for RV5, which will be for Germany. I just want to know where it is so I can avoid it, and just to tell you where it is. We've got RV2 and 3. RV4 is there, so that's low power. And that's the telephone ringing. Okay, well, I'm back here. That was the vicar on the phone. Right. Yes, I think we've covered that. I don't think it's got a transmit power one. I think that's probably fake. We'll prove that in a moment by adjusting the transmit power. So I believe we're doing that for transmit power, which is RV4. No, it's RV4, that's RV5. RV5's the low power for Germany. RV4 is there. But you know, that's the kind of position I'd expect AM modulation to be. But anyway, let's see what happens. So we're going to transmit. We're just doing over 3 watts. And that's made no difference. So let's look at whether this is what they mean by low power. It is. Yeah. So we've just coaxed another bit out of it. It's about it's about 3.5. Yeah. So that's where we are with it. So that's what they call by low power. So I'll make a new note on here. Luckily I got it the wrong way around when I wrote that, and that's actually the right way round. It's power, and that's probably going to be a modulation, which is of no interest to me. We'll check that before I wrap the set up. So FM deviation, we are interested in that, so we'll get the little oscillator out, and I think they've managed to set it a bit too high. Wall. It's about there. It was a bit high. It was about 3 maximum peak, and it's now 2.5, which is where it needs to be. So that's fine. Oh, I'll tell you what we didn't do. I was going to look at the display while seeing what the power did. So I'm going to go back to adjusting RV5 so the power drops. And as you look, I've got, that's now 1.5 watts, and the bar graph on the radio remains exactly in the same position. So it means absolutely nothing. It just is a glorified transmit light, like a lot of modern sets. I think we're going to take that lid away because we seem to be shorting things out because of it. Although I enjoy shorting out my crocodile clips, I don't enjoy shorting out radios, especially new ones. So, I've just noticed we have got another coil there, and let's just see. So it's not making any difference to the transmit power. So we'll stay where we are at 3.5 watts. I'll just reprogram this for a European country that does AM, so we can just check if that was the modulation of the IM set. I think it's EU we need. I'm going to just put it on 40. It makes I don't have to move my signal, my modulation meter as far. Just make sure we're in AM. We're in FM at the moment. There we go. Wallow. One, two, wallow. So we'll get the thing back. Wallow. while, so it was 61 to while. It's got 70% there, so that's fine. So that looks to be like we discovered where the modulation is. And we only get small power on this. It does say low power. It's only half a watt on AM, and it distinctly says low power in the window there. Let's just try and program it for a different country. I'll try E. Yes, it's 3.5 watts on AM in EI mode. So in EU mode it is half a watt. In EI mode it's 4 watts, well, supposedly, for the AM. And we'll just see where we are with the modulation again. Warlow, it's now 90%. So there we are. Right, well that's done that, so we'll go back to UK. And that's now, well that's on channel, forgot it wraps round. There we go. We'll plug the extension speaker back in. So that's covered transmit. Check we're on channel 20, and right, we're now listening to 0.3 microvolts. So now we'll switch the cyanide meter on. Tell you what, we'll start with the S9 on it, and we'll start with the detector. So I'll move the camera onto the oscilloscope. And that looks to me like it's going to be the detector. It isn't, but that will be. It is. No, that was spot on, so that's fine. Right, we'll now look at the cyanide meter. So we'll set that so we get about 4 decibels, and we'll go through these front end coils. I wonder what those are. I don't think we've gained any improvement whatsoever, so it's spot on as it comes, which is nice to know. So apart from turning up power a little bit, and it's doing 3.5 watts, you know, seems to be par for the course these days. I'll check the power supply voltage just in case, because I'm not on a normal power supply. We're on, because we're doing a ham radio set the other day, we're on a heftier supply to normal. Yes, it's near enough. Right, we'll take a reading then and see what we've got. Right, let's try for 20. Well, it must be a bit noisy because it's 10 microvolts for that. The normal one is 12. So what have we got? If I find the right scale, I'll tell you. 1 point. That's not good at all. 1.3 microvolts. Sometimes if a radio is a bit noisy, it doesn't affect the way it performs in the field, and of course we'll be doing an on-the-air test with it. So sometimes it's just because the transistors used in the audio path are inherently noisy. I've told the story about the Hitachi cassette deck before now, which was unusable unless you switched to Dolby on, which the owner didn't actually want to do. So let's look for 10 decibel sinad. One microvolt. Yeah, I've started to think, have I got the RF gain in the right position? But I have. It's there. Okay, so they're not as sensitive as some sets. Let's just see where we can hear it down to. So that's 0.3 of a microvolt, and we can hear that, and that's fine. We can actually hear it down to 0.15, but of course there's noise with that, so that's why the sinad reading, it's an inherently noisy set. Let's put a fully quietening signal on and turn the... See, that's S9, so I don't know whether we can hear that. You wouldn't expect to be able to hear that kind of noise on most sets. So that's high volume, no tone, and S9. So that's what's reducing the sinad reading. So switch picture in picture off because we don't need that anymore. So we've got S9. Let's put the tone back on. And the radio's reading S5 and a bit. So we should be able to adjust that, and I reckon it's RV1. So RV1 is there, so I think it's that. It goes in steps, look. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5 steps. So it has 10 segments, but only they're in pairs, and so it's like only having 5 segments. So that makes it look more well, it makes it look a bit smarter than it really is, doesn't it? So let's have that at 9. So we're just triggering the 9 there, and now if I turn the signal up on the signal generator, we get plus 30. So that's more where we need it to be. So that's an improvement. And then you've got this VOX thing for when you've got the ear mic plugged in for the VOX sensitivity. I'll just see where the squelch is. I don't think it's adjustable on this type of radio. So let's move the camera. I'll tell you what, we'll do the picture-in-picture on the attenuator like we do sometimes. So I'm going to turn the squelch to full, and let's see when that comes in. So that's 10 microvolts, 30 microvolts, 100 microvolts, exactly where I want it to come in, and it does. So that's great, especially if it doesn't appear to be adjustable. So it says AS as if it's got auto squelch. It has got auto squelch. It's got a click position. So let's see where it comes in on auto squelch. So comes in at 1 microvolt, so that's very useful. And let's see how we can set it for manual squelch. That's threshold. Switch the signal generator back on, and it's coming in at 0.3 of a microvolt. So it's got quite a nice squelch action by the looks of things there. So 1 microvolt for auto squelch, 0.3 of a microvolt, which is absolute maximum sensitivity really, on its manual squelch. So that should be fine. So I'll put the lids on this. At least it doesn't have menus. Right, I'll plug it into the roof aerial and we'll see what we can see. We're now on its own speaker. "19 Roger." It's about tea time, so they'll probably not be around. Well, there we are. The Intek M899, which from the instruments looks to be on the deaf side of things and does 3.5 watts on a good day with the wind behind it. But it might work very well on the air test. And at least it isn't. I said we had that problem with the detector repeatedly on a forward-facing. Was it M450? Did you say 495? Something like that. And that didn't need any adjustment whatsoever. So that the setting up was fine. So we'll do an on-the-air test later, and hope that's of interest to you. I know you all prefer the classic sets that we do, but I need to shove in the odd new one from time to time. So it's still a current model just about, and it's been around now about 4 years. So thank you for watching the Intek 899 VOX.